Good evening, everyone. This is Tommy's partner in crime and collectibles, John, and today we're going to be opening an unlimited box of Wrath while I give you a nice market update. A lot of news today, a lot of interesting things going on. The markets, the Dallas-Fort Worth calling, which I think will have an impact on some prices and the results there. And then, of course, the infamous Rudy card and the latest part of his so-called game. So stick around to the end to hear about that and some speculation on what is coming next, because I am pretty sure this isn't over. Let's jump in. So first, I want to talk about Dallas-Fort Worth. Oldham in Limited was very, very effective. Nam, I believe is his name, managed to sweep the competition by using Oldham in Limited, essentially freezing out his opponents. He got lucky. I think, from my understanding, he was the only one actually drafting Oldham at his table, so he got a very powerful deck, 40 playable cards according to himself, and managed to sweep the whole tournament with Oldham. Interesting side effect of the actual constructed competition, Lexi made it to the top 8, which is the first of the Tales of Aria heroes to get to that level in constructed. Very impressive to hear and very interesting to see. I actually, as a result of this news, purchased some of the cold foils of her items because I suspect those prices will start climbing as people want to replicate the success and extend it further. I do think Oldham is a competitor and will get up there. It's just Bravo is a little bit more powerful, has access to a few more cards that are specific to him. And so as a result, he's able to just take it a little bit further. But the next set is an extension set on the Monarch and Hales. I guess Triad is how they do it, block. And so as a result, we may see Oldham get a little bit more spice that allows him to take over those top slots and slide in there. But for the next few callings, which one is this weekend and I think the other is 2 weeks after that, it would be interesting to see if Lexi can climb further or if Oldham even makes it to the top 8 or how it goes. And obviously, the next thing that's of most interest is that Prism won again. So that's 2 in a row. Now, luckily, I have been seeking out Prism items for a while, as you've heard in my other videos. Essentially, the way I look at it is I wanted to play Prism regardless of her competitiveness. I'm nowhere near to the level that these guys are, and probably never will be. I don't care. I enjoy Prism. I like how she plays. I like the control aspect, the sudden defense capability, and the like. So I just wanted to play her because that's the hero I wanted to play. But lucky for me, I have purchased several of her items before all this, and the cold foil versions, and I'm suspecting that the prices will increase over time as she continues to, pull in calling after calling. Now, there is something that needs to be said about the, I think they call it legacy hero, basically making a hero retire. If she wins too often and too heavily, like in her favor, then what ends up happening is they retire her. And if that happens, do the items plummet? Theoretically not. LSS has promised historically that just because a hero retires doesn't mean that the class or the other cards will be useless. But at this point, there's no other illusionists. There's no other light illusionists. So a lot of that stuff will be retired because there's just no use for it outside of Prism. So if she continues to win and rack up the points, you could see a drop in the value of the cards. But like I said, I'm in that one in particular, not as an investment, but for fun. In fact, investable cards, I wouldn't even take to a table, honestly. I keep them in a separate area. I don't play with the cards that I use as investment. So that's just my idea. The few exceptions to that are the really valuable cards that I can have in a hard case, like equipment. I suppose I could do a hero or something else, but I'm not really doing that at this point. Bravo had a very strong showing. I believe there's 2 of the 8 slots, or maybe even 3 of the 8 slots in the top 8 were Bravo players. Bravo has continued to be strong throughout as a Guardian. And as I said, I think Oldham isn't that far behind, if possible. I believe we'll need to see some updates because they have access to many of the same cards. So I can see Oldham getting there. It's just it hasn't been figured out yet how to do it compared to what Bravo has been, in the competitive sphere for quite some time by comparison. So very interesting results from the Dallas-Fort Worth calling. As I said, there's another calling in Florida this weekend, and then a further one in Cincinnati 2 weeks after, I believe. So we'll see how those go. I think they will determine some of the demand for various cards. People do like to net deck the championship decks and see how they play, and learn from the best of the best. So I do see that impacting prices. Now, how much? Probably not extensive. Certainly nothing like the unlimited is not unlimited change in the market. That was drastic, and I wouldn't call it a black swan because it was very predictable, but it was definitely a unique event compared to what you see from a single tournament or even a series of tournaments where a single champion is reigning supreme. From what I've seen, and we'll jump into the EVs now, the EVs and box prices have essentially stayed in parity. That is to say that if you open a box, you have a chance at a decent return, but not a great chance. If you open a case, your odds are much more likely to be at direct correlation with the value that you get out of it. And then I think 40 boxes is what guarantees a legendary, and thus if you do that, you're a little bit ahead of your per box price, but you have to spend enough money to buy 40 boxes. So the market seems to be in tandem. It seems to be working as intended, where the box price and the expected value of any given box is very similar, so it keeps the lottery ticket feel for an individual box and a more of an investable or reasonable investment for a case. You're almost certain going to get your money back. So the market is reacting as you would expect and as it should in regards to the EVs per box. And this includes the jump in prices that happened kind of across the board with the Crucible Unlimited becoming out of print. All the boxes, including Unlimited, WTR, and ARC, hopped up in price a little bit. And as a result, what we saw was the card values jump as well. So there's a little bit of static in the market for a few days, but we're starting to see everything kind of calm down and get back to normal, so that everything's mostly in alignment. All right, let's jump into the box prices here. WTR first edition boxes are going for about $5K. It's up about 10% over the week. The unlimited boxes are $76.60. Before the crew announcement, they were about $60, so you're seeing a nice little jump there. ARC first edition is $3K. It was about $2.3K and has drifted down over recent weeks, so this is starting to see a reversal of that finally, which is nice to see if you're holding some of those boxes. Unlimited is 68 to 70. It was a little all over the place before the crew announcement, 60 to 80 or so. So I'd say it's just kind of settling into a nice mid-range. I think this was the least affected of the unlimited boxes that predate crew, or in general of the unlimited boxes, since they all kind of popped. Crew first edition is $900. It's pretty flat. It was going for somewhere between $825 and $900 before, so I don't believe that unlimited announcement had much impact, which makes sense since it doesn't really impact first edition. We already knew the supply and all of that before the crew announcement. Unlimited is $130. It was $70. Obviously, this is a big difference. We can see that it's since from its peaks around we can call it $200-300. It was crazy mania right after the announcement, slowly coming down to reality. It's now at $130, being an out of print box, which kind of gives us an idea of what might happen to ARC Unlimited and WTR Unlimited. So it might be worth picking up some. You can see a doubling in value from current market prices once the announcements come, whenever that happens. There is rumor that it should happen sometime soon, but no one knows for sure how soon. The good news is that it is drifting down. It is becoming more of a stable price. So I would suspect by the end of this, we're seeing $115 to $125, maybe $130 as a typical price for an unlimited that is out of print within its first year. Seems like a very reasonable price to settle at, considering the first editions of the latest set are going for 110 to 120 typically once the prices settle down. At least with Tales of Aria. Obviously, Monarch is a bit of a different story. Moving on to Monarch, first edition is around 250. Again, pretty flat. Maybe a little bit lower than it was a week ago. Not much though. It's kind of hard to tell because of eBay listings and determining what the exact value was and how many actually sold at that within the time frame, etc. But it's around 250. It's pretty flat. It hasn't moved much. Obviously, Crew Unlimited announcement has very little impact on Monarch because it has just come out recently. It's not going to go out of print anytime soon, and first edition even more so. We don't know the supply yet, but we do already know that it's out of print. There's no more of it, so there's no change in the market there. Unlimited, on the other hand, did jump from about $43 to $50 before. It's now around $65. Part of that was driven by the Channel Fireball sale. They were selling a case of WTR and a case of Monarch together at a per box cost of $43. So if you could afford that, you would be able to get a $43 cost basis and then immediately be able to flip them for about $50 because I think that's around where it was going before the announcement. Now it's up another $15. So people that loaded up then on the CFB kind of deal are looking pretty good. $65 from a 43 basis is not a bad margin for that. And that's without any printing discussion or anything else happening regarding this particular set. Ellie, or Tales of Aria, ELE is the code. First edition is down to 110 and 112, really low. This is kind of matching the lowest lows we saw when the market was kind of capitulating on this product a while ago. I'm not entirely sure what happened there. The rumor is that the shops overbought and then just started dumping on the market all at the same time. I don't really understand why, considering that we know this product's about to go out of print. That's the historic pattern. First edition goes out of print, Unlimited comes on. We know Unlimited is middle of November. There's an official announcement about that now. It's no longer a rumor. So why are these boxes dropping in cost? That doesn't make sense to me. So I'm just buying more because I figure once it's fully announced that this is out of print, the values will go up eventually. Even if it takes a year or two, I don't care. It's fine. So it's pretty flat with a bit of a downward pressure. So I've been keeping an eye on the card prices related to Crew. I wanted to see what the announcement would do since this is the first of a kind regarding an unlimited out-of-print announcement within the Fab universe. As you would expect in those first weeks, first days actually, the prices spiked, between 50% and 2 to 3x kind of range on everything, or a lot of stuff, all the value cards. Since then, prices have settled back down, and we're looking at more reasonable overall values. The very high value cards, such as Shayana, maintained a high premium over the pre-Crew prices. Before Crew announcement, she was at, I think, $60 to $70. Now she's at $154, give or take. So she's still quite elevated. I think that will maintain that situation because she was a legendary in that set and very hard to obtain. The tunic has actually retraced back to its pre-announcement price, and that's probably because there's a couple different ways you can get it. You can still get it in, I believe it's WTR. So it's got some market competition with more supply coming over time just from a different set. So I don't think it's going to stay elevated, or rather, I should say at parity with the other tunic for the time being. Gambler's gloves are still a little elevated. They had gotten up to double the price. Spoils of War had jumped really high, but they're now way back down. I think they got up to like $70 or something like that for a Spoils of War card, and now it's like $15. So you can see a lot of these have retraced almost completely. The Blood Sheath is about where it was. Actually, I think that was one of the few cards that didn't get a major shift in the Crew announcement. Crater Fist had jumped quite a bit, and it's settling down, although it's still elevated. Same with the Skullhorn and the Node, the Wizard Gloves. Remorseless is a little elevated because it's just a useful card. I think that might also be tied to what we saw in Dallas-Fort Worth and its use there. Think about the Lexi competitiveness. It's a card that's in demand, kind of regardless of the Crew announcement. So that might be tying into its price variance. Just want to do a quick update on Magic the Gathering. So collections ranging from the older stuff, I wouldn't say super old, but say like Gate Crash time frame and maybe Ravnica and that sort of thing, cons, that sort of time frame, they are all starting to see an uptick. It's very interesting because previously, I think 2 weeks ago, I gave an update on this. There was less movement in the Magic market. They actually seemed to be a little depressed. We're starting to see an uptick pretty much across all ages. So the, what I would call middle old sets, not the very old stuff, obviously those maintain high prices, but the middle old sets, the more recent stuff, and then the more I term like postmodern sets, or basically wherever the collector boxes started happening. That's the modern types of set in my mind. Essentially, those all are starting to tick up actually across all those sets, including the latest stuff like Adventure, Forgotten Realms, and Innistrad isn't yet, but it's still kind of in shops and that sort of stuff. It'll start ticking up after it's out of shops and the next set comes. But we're starting to see the more recent stuff tick up, which is kind of crazy. A little bit unexpected. To me, it means the markets as a whole are basically inflated. We're looking at a total collectible market cap increase. It's not a movement from one product to another or anything like that. So I think people are starting, or re-engaging the markets. Before it might have been some wallet fatigue that was slowing down sales and then depressing the prices across the board. Looks like that is slowly coming to an end. So it's interesting to watch these tick back up, but it's minor. It's nothing notable. Should I see something pop up that's very notable, I will definitely comment on it. So let's get into the strange part. The Rudy card. So, as I previously disclosed, I bought 2 of these. I bought it for the history of it. I had no intentions of selling it. I'm not speculating on it, really. I don't care. It's not about selling it. It's about having it, and I have it on my shelf, and I'm happy to have it on my shelf. So he came out with an announcement late last night. Very intriguing. Anyone who bought the card, and is on his personal list on who bought the card, will get a $69 discount on all future Rudy kits of Flesh and Blood. Now, he does these kits, I guess, every couple of months, something like that. And it's usually like a play mat, maybe a case, and then maybe a special card or something of that nature, or the blitz decks, depending on what's happening at the time. So it's a set. It costs a fair amount of money, and he's going to give anyone who bought the card a $69 discount going forward. So the idea is that this collectible, this gem keeper, card that people purchased, is going to pay a dividend. That's how he's looking at it, pay out some sort of dividend over time, which is fine and well if you're a fab collector like I am. I'm very happy about this. There's a couple of rules and caveats about this that actually make it a little interesting and change a bit of the market dynamic, which I think is the game he's playing. I'll get to that at the end. You only get 1 discount. So if you bought 2 cards, that second one is of little to no value now, because it doesn't actually, for the purposes of this dividend, I still think it has value as a piece of history, art, etc. But from the purposes of this particular dividend, it has no value. So in a lot of people's minds, they're going to say, okay, I really, really don't need to hold on to the second card. I'm going to dump it on the market. I think in a way he's attempting to crash the prices. And the reason why I say that is because all the decisions here have essentially, they're forcing the market that direction, or reasonable actors would act that way. So what happens is you don't get the discount if you're not on the list. So there are some people out there, and I've seen videos about it, where they bought maybe 10 of them, even though the limit was 2. So they talked to other patrons, other people of theirs in their network, and bought them at cost, had those patrons essentially buy it and paid cost for it so that they could get like 10 of them, and hoarding it, hoping that there was some, I don't know, increase in price or something. I'm not entirely sure why someone would do that, but they were doing it because they wanted to do that, speculating, I suppose. And now they're all going to get screwed, because the way this works, it's these patrons that they bought it at cost from are going to get this ongoing benefit for free from Rudy. So they'll be able to buy fab kits from him with a discount ongoing for some time. He said he didn't know how long because he didn't think he'll be in YouTube for 5 more years or so. But it's probably about 10 kits. I think some people are saying it's like 5. I'm guessing it's more like 10 because we get 2 or 3. I think we get 3 a year, give or take, and they go with the sets themselves. And then, although he was talking about doing a Tales of Aria Unlimited kit, and he already did a Tales of Aria kit, so maybe there's 2 per set, and then that'd be 6 a year. I'm not entirely sure. But regardless, if he's talking 5 more years, he said maybe around 10 more kits. Give or take, you're getting $690, back over time on a $1,000 purchase, which is great. That means you paid $310 for this thing at the end, unless you bought 2. And then it decreases the value. So then it opens up this second market desire, which is what I was talking about. If you bought 10 through other people, you're really getting screwed because basically they get to reap all that benefit for nothing, for free, essentially, because they paid cost and got cost back. So that's an interesting thing. Oh, and anyone who buys it through like eBay or whatever also do not get the discount. It has to be through his Patreon directly. It can't be the card holder is the one with the discount. It's only the people he is paying attention to on his list. So interesting. Rewards those that are loyal and believe in him. Kind of punishes the evil investors, if you will, which is very different than what most people will say about Rudy. The people who essentially try to work the system to get as many as they could aren't going to receive the benefit of it. And then it will probably also piss off people that don't have access because, again, this is a below market price on his kits, which are usually really profitable. And it's even lower than that because you get a discount on top of his regular discount that his kits enjoy. So it's an interesting dynamic. Now, there's one thing that I think people missed, or at least I haven't seen anything on it yet. At the end of his Patreon post on this, where he explains it, there's a link to video 21. It's a scene in a classroom with a math professor talking to a student, essentially, about a game show problem. So the problem goes like this. There is a brilliant math student in a math class, and essentially what happens is he's given a problem. It's a game show problem. There are 3 doors, 1, 2, and 3. Behind 2 doors are goats. Behind 1 is a car. He's asked which door he'll choose. He chooses number 1. And now the knowledge is that the game show host knows where the car is. So student chooses door number 1. So the professor then goes over to door number 3. And he opens it, and it's goats. So he knows that is not the car door, right? And so he says, now, are you sure, to the student who represents a contestant, that you want to open door number 1? And at that point, the student says, no, I'd rather open up door number 2. And of course, he says, well, then they go into the math explanation. Why do you choose that? And essentially what it boils down to is with the lack of information, the first door, second door, and third door are equally 33%. Once the game show host, which knows where the car is, chooses a different door than the one that was chosen, it now goes to a 66% chance that the number 2 is the actual door, with 33% on the first door. So it's a change in variables, essentially, and it's a bit of a math lesson. But what is interesting is that Rudy posted this at the end of his Patreon statement in a link that said something about risk. It just essentially reward for taking risk or something like that. I enjoy that people are taking a risk. Very odd. Not called out. Not specific. It's just a little link at the very bottom of the post, kind of hidden. So what does this mean? Well, remember, the whole purpose of this was to draw attention to the game, to Rudy, to all the rest of this. And he has hinted at retiring and these other things going on, so there's a lot of little hints flying around Rudy right now. And with this, he said, with the previous game, when he had talked about it, he said this was a fun game, can't wait for the next one. Clearly this discount is part of the next one, but there's no real game here. You just get the discount if you have the cards. Maybe the game is to see if he can tank the price of the card. I don't know. But this hint that he leaves at the end of the movie makes it seem like he might be the game show host, and he knows which door the prize is behind, and he's waiting to see how people react. and playing with those emotional reactions. And he's said this pretty openly that he really enjoys seeing how the Timmies get all upset and this and that and the other, and this seems to be the fun that he's having in this. So when you think about this story about the game show host and him having the information about where the prize is, and that we as the contestants don't know, but if we think rationally instead of emotionally, we might be able to find the prize using statistics, game theory, or otherwise. I can't say what I think it's gonna do ultimately, but clearly he's punishing the evil investors in a way, and he's not dumb. He's definitely not dumb. He knows exactly how these sorts of announcements are going to impact the markets. Anyone who bought two is now motivated to get rid of one, reduce their cost basis, and then keep the discount because they'll have the discount regardless of the cards. In fact, because you don't have to have the card, unless you want to keep it, which I do, you could sell both of them and get a lot more money back at market price. So that means a ton of people, rational actors, are going to go and try to sell at least one card, maybe two, because the markets have been rather thin on this. I don't know if anyone's kept up on this, but I've been watching it every couple days. I'll take a look, and I think they're selling, well, before this announcement, they were selling for around 17 to 1800 was the last sale. Currently, they're listed more towards a $4,000 range, and that changed since last night. I just happened to do my price updates last night to take a look at things, and it was around 17 to 1800 still listed, maybe up to 2,400. Now they're listed at 4,000. Now none have sold there. The last sale was around 1,800. That's the actual price for what people are willing to pay, but this announcement may change that, and I guess people are speculating that they can get more out of it because the listing prices jumped from like 2,500 to like 4,000. Unless, of course, well, no, I'm not entirely sure why people are doing that as the basis of the speculation. I think there's another game at play, and he even says something that kind of hints at that at the end of this last video, because he did a video on top of the Patreon announcement. He said his evil game is continuing, and then at the end he basically hints that there's more to come. He has about 10 days till he burns the cards, and I'm guessing at that point he'll make some further announcement about this. I honestly kind of don't care. It's kind of funny because a lot of people are talking about it. Oh, he did say one thing that I thought was interesting. He speculated that less people would talk about this because they prefer to hate him and think he's evil, and this is a nice thing that's against evil investors, if you think about it, right? And is good for loyal patrons. And so he doesn't think people will talk about that because he doesn't think the internet will give him the credit of being a nice guy or doing a good thing, which I think is cool. I mean, I think the idea that there's a dividend, I think what he's doing is generally cool philosophically. It's all great and good. Didn't buy it for any of this stuff, but it's a great bonus for me. I'm kind of whatever on the punishing the investors and driving the price of the card down. I don't really care. Again, I'm not here to sell it. I wasn't going to sell it. So none of this has an impact for me. I'm a long-term hold type person. That's how I made my money with crypto. It's how I'm going to make my money with collectibles. I have no problem with that. What it does end up doing is changing the narrative. So we get to see where the narrative goes, which I think is where he's having his most fun. He talks about it that way. So maybe this is all just to see what happens with that. So far, I've already seen videos on this. The last announcement, I saw far fewer videos on this. Now, I'm not super connected. When it comes to the cardboard space and collectible space and stuff. So maybe I'm just missing it. But I didn't see any real angry posts or anything. I think I saw one out of the last thing. So I'm curious to see what it looks like with this one. If he's going to get more press, less press, etc. Apparently a lot of the other game companies noted it, the first announcement. The Pokemons and whatever he mentions in his video. So if that's true, maybe that's the kind of press he's looking for, or engagement, I guess. So we'll see. I guess we'll see what happens in 10 days when he burns the cards and determine what goes from there. I suspect there's more to this game. I think we just opened door number 1, and he's probably proposing that we sell the cards as part of door number one. He's making a sly offer. Sell your cards, sell your cards, sell your cards, because it's going to have no value. You don't need the card. Well, I'm not selling any of my cards. I said this before. You're going to have to offer me 10x my initial price, and then I'll consider it, maybe. But probably not, because I actually do just want to have it. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. I think there will be a door number two, and we'll see how this game plays. But he's clearly having fun, so good for him. Especially if this is his kind of moving towards retirement thing. You should have some fun in life, and that's, I've always thought that, and that's part of why I'm in this. It's not about making money for me. I really enjoy these cards and collectibles, and I actually get joy out of having them and collecting them, and even speculating on them gives me joy. So for me, it's about bringing a little joy in life. And Rudy pretty regularly talks about that. Like, go out and enjoy life. Life is beautiful. There's lots of things to do, lots of wonderful things to experience. Go do it. And I think he's setting himself up to have a nice, good experience on his way out the door. And that is my speculation on it. So this pack had some pretty spicy pulls. A couple of big ones, the Scab Leathers and Enlightened Strike. They definitely paid for the box here, so that was nice. Very nice when you can pay for a box plus when you crack it, even with the increased value. I was a little bit worried about opening a WTR since they jumped. These are $43 cost basis for me at this point, and they jumped up to 70, so I was a little worried I'd crack it and lose all the value and could have just sold the box, etc., for profit. But turns out I made the right move. This was a good gamble. The Scab Leathers go for $70.54, and the Lightning Strike $64.78. So let's go ahead and just go through all the prices, and then we'll close this out. So the Munginchi release is $177. That's the Katsu specialization, super rare, I guess. Forged for War, yellow is 1.3 or 130. Flick Flack in foil is 110. Staunch Response yellow in foil is only 99 cents. Not much there. Blood Rush, the Majestic is non-foil is $8.96. Pounding Gale is $178. Reckless Swing is a nice pull at $5.30. The Staunch Response Blue is actually a nice pull for $3.10, which I didn't realize the blue was special in foil. That is. Let's see here. The Steel Blade Stunt and yellow is 99 cents. That's in foil. Blessing of Deliverance, also foil, 113. Bonehead Barrier yellow is 110, also in foil. And then, of course, the big ones, as I said, $70.54 for the Scabskin Leathers and $64.78 for the Enlightened Strike. So that is it for that. The total is $162.81. Hope you all are having a good day today. If you like the content, or you want to hear more market updates, or hear more about the Rudy drama, or whatever else is catching your attention on our channel, Tommy Does Comics. We'll have a game up here soon that we did over the weekend. We're editing and we'll be up soon. And we'll have a lot more content as things go on. I'll continue to do these market updates every week. But if you like it, subscribe and like, and leave a comment. We're thinking about doing some giveaways here pretty soon, so maybe a box opening where we essentially choose a card from the box, probably the most valuable card or something, and randomize someone that comments in our videos and then give it to them. Not quite sure. If you have opinions on the best format and way to do that, something you'd like to see, let us know. Leave a comment and let me know how you'd like to get a free card or a free, valuable item out of the channel. All right. Well, have a great day. I hope you guys go out, have some fun, play some games, hang out with some friends, and we'll see you next time.